Hello, Mcjell. Hey, how you doing? Who are you? Why do you look exactly like me, but you don't have hair, and what are you doing here? If you would like answers to your questions, you must first make a decision. Okay, I guess? Your first choice will be the blue pill. That pill is not even blue. You will spend the rest of your life stuck in the late 90s. You'll be able to watch good movies in the cinema. You will also have a stable job with good pay and a pension. Well, that actually sounds kind of good, actually. I like the sound of that. Or you could take the red pill. All right, you're not even trying anymore. That's not even a pill. You'll spend the rest of your life with us. You'll eat grey porridge every single day for breakfast. Plus, you'll live in constant fear of machines that want to turn you into batteries. Yeah, okay, I think I'm definitely going to take that blue pill, thank you. But you will be able to get freaky with Trinity. Okay, give me that fucking red pill right now. The Matrix, one of the greatest movies of the 90s, an iconic film to say the least. The sequels, well, we don't really talk about the sequels, they're not as good. Reloaded has its moments. I really like that one scene where they're on the motorway, that's pretty cool. The third one, though, is absolutely abysmal. But anyway, we're not here to talk about the Matrix movies, we're here to talk about the video games, and in particular, I want to talk about the Path of Neo on the PS2. Now, sadly, this is not a game that I've got any nostalgia for. I've never played this game up until recently. I did play the Enter the Matrix back in the day, and to be honest with you, I kind of like that game probably more than I should. And that's a game that not a lot of people like, but I don't know, I thought it was kind of a banger.
You know, some people call that art. It's crap!
Yeah, it's not perfect, but what game is? I don't know, I like that game, but we're not talking about that game, boys. We're talking about Path of Neo. Now, the Matrix Path of Neo is a bit of a strange one because I don't believe it was a movie tie-in. I think this came out years after they made the Matrix movies. It's also pretty strange as well, the fact that they've only made 2 Matrix games. Like, they would just make perfect video games. You'd think there'd be tons of them. All of that slow-mo bullet dodging stuff, like, that just makes perfect video game sense. So yeah, the fact that we've only got 2 Matrix games is very odd. I don't even remember what I was talking about now, I've gone off topic. Anyway, before we go any further with the Matrix Path of Neo, I think we need to address the elephant in the room. Why do I look so damn good in this jacket? I mean, come on, guys, I look fantastic. No, the real elephant in the room we need to address is what the hell am I even doing? Like, I'm a FIFA YouTuber, why am I dressed up with a bald hat, sunglasses, talking about a Matrix PS2 game that nobody remembers? Well, guys, I can give you all 2 reasons for this. Number 1, I hate FIFA. Alright, I never, ever want to play FIFA again. Back in the past, I used to love FIFA, you know? You used to get home from school or college or whatever it might be, you'd sit on, play a few games at Ultimate Team, have a go on pro clubs with your mates. It was all a good laugh.
Those were the days.
But as the years have rolled on and on and on, FIFA has become more pay to win, more boring, and just stressful. It's not a fun game anymore. And as you guys will know if you follow the channel, I've just grown tired of the way that FIFA is now, so I just don't want to play FIFA or really any sort of multiplayer games anymore. At this stage in my life, I've fully embraced single player gaming. I love older games, I love newer games. I just like playing single player stuff, so I figured why not do videos on the single player games that I like playing.
That makes sense to me.
And recently I played the Matrix Path of Neo, so I figured why not just dress up as someone from the Matrix and talk about it. So that's what we're doing. Whether or not you guys want to see these types of videos, we'll have to wait and see. I doubt this video is going to do crazy numbers in terms of views, but it's not about that for me anymore, boys. I just want to make something that I'm actually proud of, something that I'm actually going to enjoy making, and FIFA just doesn't do it for me anymore. Alright then, enough of the backstory. Let's actually dive into the Matrix Path of Neo and what this game is all about. So pretty much it's a game that takes place across all 3 of the Matrix movies, and you play as Neo in the game. And this game kicks off with possibly the most iconic moment in all of the Matrix movies, the blue pill, red pill scene. Now, unlike the movies where you're watching it and you know that Neo is going to take the red pill, you actually get to decide for yourself which of the 2 pills you're going to take. You know, will you take the blue or the red pill? So of course my curiosity gets the better of me. I think, well, I've got to try the blue pill, I want to see what happens. But sadly, there's nothing interesting whatsoever. You just wake up at your desk and have to restart the section. So that, for me at least, was a bit of a missed opportunity.
My disappointment is immeasurable.
So of course, to progress the game, we've got to take the red pill, and that's where this game kicks off. And straight away, this game sort of throws you into a bit of a combat scenario, just to give you a bit of a taster as to how this game is going to play. And I'll be honest, it's not the best first impression. The game just throws a ton of enemies at you, and they just throw a bunch of controls at you that you've got to try and remember. You'll be shooting the enemies, doing all the martial arts, you know, beating their ass, and yeah, it's just a bit all over the place, a little bit chaotic to begin with. But I think the worst thing about this intro to the game is the fact that the performance is really bad, at least on the PlayStation 2. If you want to play this game for yourselves, I'd probably recommend getting it for the original Xbox. I imagine the performance is a lot better, but what can I say, boys? I just love the PS2, so I'm always going to pick that version. Plus, I don't even have an original Xbox. I've got a 360, but not an OG Xbox, but maybe I'll have to buy one for videos like this. Anyway, we'll get into a bit more detail on the performance of this game later on, because I want to go fully in-depth into the combat. But the next part of this game takes place in the office, and we all know this scene is super iconic. Neo's on the phone with Morpheus, and he's trying to tell him when and where to go so he doesn't get captured by Agent Smith. It's a great scene. Unfortunately, the PS2 version of this is not quite as good. It's just not as tense, and I don't know, it just serves as a bit of a tutorial into the cover-based system, which you never really have to use after this moment, so it's weird that we even got this sort of tutorial. On top of that as well, I feel like it kind of drags on a little bit. Like in the movie, this is like maybe a 2-minute scene. It's not very long, but in the game, it feels like it's going on forever. It's a good 20 minutes or so. In the movies, Neo has to make that decision on whether or not to make that crazy jump, and in the end, he decides not to. Whereas in the game, you do actually manage to escape Smith, and you're like climbing all over these skyscrapers and going up and down cranes. It's a little bit crazy, and I'm making it sound pretty way more interesting than it actually is. But yeah, from a gameplay perspective, it's okay, I guess. And when it comes to Path of Neo, this isn't like the only time that it kind of strays away from what the movies do. On quite a few scenarios, the game does things differently to the films. In some ways, this is good, and in some ways, it's not so good. It kind of works and doesn't in certain areas, because like the next part of this game is based entirely on Neo's training, and in the movies, this is pretty much glossed over. It's not like a super long thing. Obviously, we do get the iconic fight with Morpheus, but that aside, we don't really see much of Neo's training, whereas in the game, it's like a whole thing. It serves as like a really long sort of tutorial into the combat, which I do think was somewhat necessary because there's a lot of mechanics to this game, but at the same time, I don't feel that this tutorial needed to be as long as it is. It takes up quite a chunk of the game, actually. And weirdly enough, there's like this entire focus on stealth mechanics, but from my memory, I don't think you ever use stealth ever again.
Waste of our time. Waste of our time.
So yeah, this entire tutorial is probably way longer than it has any right to be. It didn't need to be this in-depth, but yeah, it did teach you all the mechanics, so I suppose that's a good thing. So yeah, speaking of the mechanics of the game, I think it's time we get into the specifics on combat. So pretty much it's kind of broken up into two different areas, fighting and shooting. Now, the majority of this game is all about the old fisticuffs. That's what the majority of what you'll be doing. It's pretty much a beat 'em up, if you like. And when it comes to the fighting in this game, it's actually really impressive. Like, there's actually a lot you can do when it comes to the fighting. There is a crazy range of combos in this game. It's almost like a freaking Tekken at times. And I wasn't sure how to do this myself, but I did actually see a clip on YouTube of somebody picking up a couple of Agent Smiths and whipping them around. Like, I was like, I wish I could do that.
That's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
Now, I mentioned earlier about the sort of performance issues on the PlayStation 2, and that definitely hinders the experience quite a lot, because whilst you're doing all of these awesome combos and beating the hell out of everyone, you've got to deal with some really bad frame rate. And I do feel like this is an issue that is pretty specific to the PlayStation 2. I don't think the original Xbox version would have this issue, but yeah, the game drops a lot of frames, especially when there's a lot of people on screen. And the more this game tries to do it once, just the worse the frame rate gets, and it does make the combat a little sluggish at times, especially when you're trying to fight groups of enemies, which would otherwise be really cool, but yeah, it runs like crap. Yeah, as for the rest of the combat in this game, boys, it's all about the shooting, and unfortunately, shooting people is not as good as the fighting. A lot of it comes down to some really sluggish controls that have not aged well. There's some really poor choices when it comes to the controls, but I think more than anything, it just feels a little bit rushed in the shooting department, whereas the fighting feels pretty tight. But yeah, if you kind of want like a mental image of how the shooting is, it's not too dissimilar to Max Payne in a lot of ways, because you can do like these like awesome slow-mo jumps and shoot people, and that stuff is really good. But yeah, where this game lacks in the shooting department is kind of to do with like the lock-on system. For one, in order to lock on to people, you have to hold down R2. The issue with that though is the shooting button is R1, so if you just picture a controller in your hands here, it just doesn't feel right. You can switch some of the options around, so you can turn it onto a toggle, which is definitely better, but it's still really clunky to actually play. But yeah, the lock-on system in general is just ridiculously janky. It will stay locked on to dead enemies for some reason. Like, you'd think like once you've killed someone, that would be that, but no, it actually stays locked onto them, which again, just hasn't aged well. But even worse than that is the fact that the lock-on is just so totally random. Like, you'd think it would sort of operate on the closest enemy to you, but on a lot of instances, it will just lock on to a completely random person. Meanwhile, there's like someone is literally a yard away from you that it refuses to lock onto, and it just becomes a really janky sort of mess. So yeah, once you get past the tutorial of this game, we get to kind of have a few levels just sort of testing out the shooting and the fighting, and it's all good fun. There's some really crazy ragdoll physics, which is awesome. I've already talked about how fun the fighting is. I really like the first sort of few hours of this game. However, what I didn't really like was this turret section. This turret section was boring. It's one of sort of like my pet peeves in gaming is turret sections because they just feel mindless. I genuinely can't think of a single like really enjoyable turret section. Like all of them are just a bit boring, and this one, for me at least, was no exception. It was pretty dull. What makes it even worse is that for some weird reason, Morpheus decided to fling himself out of this building head first, so I actually had to restart and do this entire section again.
Why did he do that?
Now, this is probably something that I did on my part, so I'm not like sitting here blaming the game, but yeah, it just was a bit of a chore to have to replay that entire section again when I didn't really enjoy it the first time. Thankfully though, boys, the game picks up big time in this next level because we get to fight Agent Smith, and it's a really great boss fight. The boss fights in this game are top tier. It's probably one of my favorite aspects of the game. Like, I can't think of a single bad boss fight, and yeah, this Agent Smith one was great. You'll be kicking the absolute crap out of him, and then after a while, you'll start to notice that his health is actually regenerating. With me having 10 billion IQ and an absolutely massive brain, I put some things together here. We're not supposed to fight him. We got to get him on those train tracks. More specifically, I need Agent Smith to actually get hit by a train whilst he's in those train tracks. And if I'm not mistaken as well, I'm pretty sure that does happen in the film. I'm sure Agent Smith gets hit by a train when they're fighting. I'm sure that happens. And speaking of trains, this next level does take place on a train, and it differentiates from the movies. This is not something that happens in the films. It's a weird level. It has some cool moments and then some bad ones. The entire level is sort of there to mess with your mind. So there's one part in the level, for example, where you go in and out of a carriage, and the people on the train sort of rotate. Am I describing this right? I hope so. So yeah, basically you have to keep going in and out of this carriage until everyone's facing the right way. I don't know, I thought that was kind of cool. As for the next level, it's a whole sort of chase sequence, and you're running away from various Agent Smiths, and I again thought this level was pretty damn sweet. The early hours of this game, like I said, are really good. I'd say the first sort of 2 to 3 hours of the game are mostly super good. And this game is probably about 8 to 9 hours long, and sort of like the middle portion of the game is not great, but the early hours and the ending hours are all superb. Lads, I've completely forgotten what I was talking about. My mind's gone poof because we went off topic. But I know I was talking about the chase sequence level, but what specifically, I can't remember if I was speaking about something specific at all. I don't freaking know. Anyway, the chase sequence level, it was cool, it was awesome, and oh, I need to say this. The soundtrack in this level, oh boy, this soundtrack for this level in particular has no right to be as much of a banger as it is. It just goes so unbelievably hard, and it's not like the rest of the soundtrack in the game is like 10 out of 10 or anything. It's just this one song really that's so good. Like seriously, I was playing the game and I was really getting into it. I was getting into the groove. I was like, oh, this is kind of funky. And on top of that as well, on my first attempt, I did actually get caught by Agent Smith and I had to restart the level. I didn't mind though, because I got to listen to that absolute banger song again.
Can I tell you something? I love it.
Alright guys, so earlier I did mention the fact that this game, starts off really good, and then as the middle portion rolls on, it's not as good. Well, unfortunately, we're now sort of in the middle portion of this game. So in the beginning, you're playing through the different levels, and you're just going from level 1 to level 2, so on and so forth. And for the most part, it does stick to the Matrix 1 and what happens in that film. Obviously, there are a few occasions where it differs from the film, but for the most part, it does stick on course. The next part of this game, though, is, it might be in the Matrix Reloaded, but I don't think it is. Yeah, basically the entire structure of the game changes a little bit. So you've got 4 different missions, and you can do each of these 4 missions in whichever order you like, and none of them are interesting. They're all really quite boring. And I'll be honest with you guys, I wrote like a ton of notes last night, about this game and, for this video. I don't have any notes on these levels because there was just nothing to report. There was nothing there. So yeah, I've not really got a lot to talk about with these levels other than the fact that, yeah, it was pretty boring. So I guess we'll move forward. And then the next level that is actually worth talking about, unfortunately, is not worth talking about for good reasons. It's a pretty bad level. It's not my least favorite level in the game, but I'd probably say it's my second least favorite. There's a level later in this game that I'm going to talk about that made my head explode. So yeah, obviously we're playing as Neo, but you're actually joined with, I forget her name now, but it's Will Smith's husband, that one. Yeah, the both of you are going around shooting enemies, nothing too crazy. You know what to expect by this point. But yeah, for some weird reason, the game decided to sort of explode all of the floors. So you'll just be walking around and all of a sudden you can fall and shit. You won't like die or anything, but you do have to then circle back round to the staircase, go up the stairs, and it happens again. And I'm stupid, so this did happen a lot. It was just one of those like annoying levels. I can't quite describe why it was so annoying, it just was. Yeah, what made it even worse is the fact that I actually thought my game was glitched out because for some reason, good old Jada Pinkett, she was stuck on the staircase.
Keep my wife's name.
She just refused to move and I thought my game was bugging, but it turns out that all I had to do was shoot these like mechanisms on these doors to make them shut or something. I can't exactly remember, but I was making a mistake. It wasn't the game. But that doesn't take away from the fact that this level sucked. I didn't like this level because that whole floor stuff, that was just annoying. Lads, I've just taken a look at my notes and you know how I said that the level before was my second least favorite level in the game? Well, it turns out the next level is my least favorite. I thought it came later. Anyway, let's get this over with. Let's talk about the worst level in the Matrix path for Neo. So pretty much it's kind of like Mario 64. That's the best way I can describe it. And you're probably thinking, Mcjell, Mario 64 is great. Why would this be a bad thing? Well, the reason it's a bad thing is this is the Matrix path for Neo and the controls are not as tight as Mario 64. So basically what this game wants you to do is get up onto this crane. All right, sounds simple enough. So yeah, you've kind of got to do these like slow motion crazy flip jumps and on paper it sounds fine, but this game is, you know, very clunky and janky and it's not aged the best. So as you can imagine, it's a little bit all over the place with the platforming. It's not really something this game should be focusing on. So yeah, for some reason the placement of this crane is just super awkward to get to. So jumping up there is not an easy thing.
I don't want to play anymore. I don't want to play anymore.
Yeah, after trying and failing a billion times, I do eventually get up to the crane, which is great. Unfortunately, you have to come back down off the crane, shoot a load of really tough enemies, and they did kill me quite a few times. Thankfully, there's a checkpoint there, because my head would be going on to another planet if there wasn't a checkpoint. But after you've killed all those really tough enemies, you have to get back onto the crane again. It's just annoying. Like, this whole level was just annoying. And this game just takes, like, the biggest dip in quality, because, like, again, the first few hours of this game is just so fantastic. The middle portion, though, is just bogged down with boring and not fun levels. Alright, we've talked about some bad levels in this game, but we get back on track finally with a decent little boss fight. And like I said before, the boss fights in this game are top-notch. You have to fight Seraph, I think his name was. Is it Seraph? Is that how you pronounce it? Well, anyway, you're seeing it on screen now. You have to fight this guy, and it's a great boss fight. It does drag on maybe a little too long. Like, there's a final phase to this boss fight that just probably didn't need to be there. But there is one part in this boss fight where you're on these different sticks, and there's, like, fire on the sticks, and you've got to beat each other up. I thought this was so cool. I just loved it. This just screamed of, I don't know, PS2 fun. I don't know how to describe it. It was just great. Honestly, if the Matrix Path of Neo was just a compilation of different boss fights throughout the entire of the Matrix movies, I would probably think it's the greatest game of all time. Like, they should just do a Matrix version of Cuphead where you're just fighting endless hordes of bosses. That would probably get really stale really quickly. But anyway, what I'm saying is this boss fight was cool, and all of the boss fights in Matrix Path of Neo are pretty damn good. Alright boys, this next level was one that I was excited for, but equally nervous for. I wasn't sure how this one was gonna go. So we all know that one scene in The Matrix Reloaded, it's the best scene if we're being real, where Neo has to fight all of those different Agent Smiths, and there's thousands of them. It's a pretty awesome scene. Even if you don't like Matrix Reloaded, you can't deny that it's pretty damn cool. Yeah, we get to that part in the game, and like I said, I was excited, but I was equally nervous because we've all seen how the performance of this game is on PS2. The frame rate can be really bad.
Hey, no, stop, just calm down, don't.
And obviously, if you've got thousands of Agent Smiths on the screen, I mean, we're going to be going at freaking one frame per second. It's going to be like the slowest fighting of all time. Thankfully, this game does something that honestly was pretty clever. They kind of had like a background of Agent Smiths. You know, they're just running around like headless chickens. It doesn't look great, I'll be real, but it's cool that they're there. And then within that sort of circle of Agent Smiths, you've got like 1 or 2 or 3 Agent Smiths that you can actually the fight, and as you beat one, a new one comes in. And is it perfect? No. Would I have loved to have fought 1,000 Agent Smiths all at once? Sure, but it's the best that they could have done. Okay then boys, moving on to what is possibly the most bizarre part of this game, and that is saying something because this game just gets crazy at times. The beginning and middle aren't too crazy, you know, it's pretty Bob standard, but the closer you get towards the end of this game, the weirder things become. This next part is not in the films. It's needless to say once you see what I'm about to show you. Basically, you go around and fight giant ants with a candle. It sounds like I've made it up, but you're seeing it in the background right now, so you know that I'm telling the truth.
I'm not being funny. What the f is going on?
I don't even know what the hell this level was. Like, this game was fairly normal up until this point. It was just following the films of The Matrix, which are weird films, albeit, but this is just not normal. But I'll be honest, guys, I freaking love this level. Is it good? Well, it's not great, but it's just so outlandish and bizarre and strange that I can't help but just admire it, and it just screams PS2. You would never ever get a game like this today. You would never get like a film-based game where they just decide to randomly have you fighting giant ants. Like, that's just not gonna be a thing today. So yeah, I'll be honest, I just really love this level because it's just how freaking random it was. I loved it. Alright boys, we're getting to the final sort of stages of this game now, which is probably gonna sound a little bit weird because all we've really talked about is the Matrix 1 and 2. I've not even really mentioned Matrix 3, but yeah, this game just kind of glosses over 90% of that film, and I don't blame them, to be honest with you, because that film is crap. But yeah, you go through a bunch of different rooms, fight some more Agent Smiths, you know, stuff you've already seen and I've already shown you, but after that we get the final showdown against the Agent Smith of all Agent Smiths, the #1 daddy, and this fight is fantastic. It's the best boss fight in the game. You start off on the ground, you're fighting, it's great, you're doing your combos, but when this boss fight gets really good is when you're in the air and you're flying at each other like it's Dragon Ball Z. Obviously this does take place in The Matrix 3, and it's by far the best part of The Matrix 3 is the end fight. But yeah, I absolutely love this fight. It was so much fun to play. I would quite happily get my PS2 out and just replay this level over and over and over again because of how much I love this boss fight. Don't get me wrong, it's not like Dark Souls or anything. It's, you know, it's not like got the craziest mechanics, but just as a pure spectacle, it looks fantastic. So yeah, after we beat Agent Smith, I'm sat there thinking, well, we've done it. We've beaten Matrix Path for Neo. You know, I was patting myself on the back, you know, thinking, oh, well done me. However, boys, that is not actually the end of the game. There is even more. I alluded to the fact that this game was weird, but this is where this game goes from fairly weird to just off the charts weird. I'm not even going to bother trying to describe this ending. I'm literally just going to show you it and you can take from it what you will.
Hi, I'm Andy Wachowski.
And I'm Larry Wachowski.
Or rather, these are the digital projections of our mental selves.
First of all, congrats on reaching the final stage of this game. You kick ass.
Yes, we salute your excellence on the gaming field.
Now, the real reason we're here is to discuss the big problem we faced in turning these 3 movies into a video game. You see, at this point in the story, Neo stands on the verge of Satori, ready to resolve the paradox of choice and choicelessness, of free will versus fate, but that can only be achieved through an act of surrender, which occurs after he has abandoned the perspectival nature of truth, accepting the totality of present consciousness, which ultimately allows an evolutionary transition, transcending the Cartesian dilemma through the emergence of delimited spirit, which then provides the world with a choice of a third path, the path of Neo, the path of peace.
You promised you wouldn't do that. Sorry. I think what my brother's trying to say is, at this point, it's martyr time. Now, maybe that works in a movie, but in a video game, the Jesus thing is, well...
lame.
Really lame. If you're like us, then right now you're ready for 15 minutes of sweaty-palmed, button-pushing action to kick the crap out of some big badass boss.
So we suggested to Chiny that we change the ending.
We thought it would be cool after Smith rose up screaming, "It's my world." The other Smiths jumped onto him, merging into one massive monster Mega Smith.
So if you're ready, it's time for a little Hulk versus Galactus action.
Good luck!
You'll need it.
And enjoy enlightenment!
What the
What the fuck was that?
So yeah, after that completely weird and crazy fourth wall breaking end, we get to fight like a garbage version of Agent Smith, and once again, this game has just got another really awesome boss fight for us. Now when it comes to the mechanics of this boss fight, it's not great, alright? It's fairly simple. You basically go around dodging his attacks, which aren't difficult to dodge at all, and then you load up a charge attack. You do that rinse and repeat over and over again until you kill him. But just looking at it, like just from a spectacle perspective, just looking at it with your eyes, the boss fight is awesome. And that's what this game does best in my opinion. Not just the boss fights, but just the spectacle of it. Because when it comes to the fighting and the shooting, it all looks great. It's maybe not the best to play at all times, in some aspects haven't aged the best, but when you're just looking at it, it looks just brilliant. So yeah, after you beat this boss, that is the actual end of the game, and that is the Matrix Path for Neo. It's a bizarre game, it's weird, it has some great moments, some bad moments, but I did like this game. I'd be lying if I said that I didn't. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. There's definitely some aspects of this game that aren't great, but I honestly thought it was pretty damn fun. Anyway, boys, that is gonna do it for the video. I'm gonna take these glasses off. I'm also gonna take this coat off because it's really freaking hot. So I might as well take that bald cap off as well, and we'll just have a little chit chat, shall we, before we end. All right then, boys, I think that's gonna do it for the video. I hope you all did enjoy. I know this was completely different to what you're probably expecting on this channel. Like, you guys watch me to play FIFA, and I'm sat here talking about the Matrix Path for Neo. But honestly, I've just had such a great time filming that video. I was using the green screen. Obviously, you guys, well, you've been watching the video up to this point, so you'll know. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to now editing the video, and I don't know, it's just feel like it's reignited my passion for YouTube. FIFA has had me in this cycle of just pumping out content, and it just felt so dull. So yeah, I wanted to do something different, and obviously I love gaming, so I wanted to talk about some games. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you stuck around this long, so you probably did. But yeah, that's gonna do it then, boys. If you're new here, like the video, subscribe. Look forward to more of these type videos, because I'm gonna be doing plenty more. And other than that, boys, I'll see you all for the next one. All right, peace.